So beyond the first primary reason that the Book of Mormon was preserved, which is to testify of Jesus Christ, one of the other primary reasons why this was preserved was simply to be able to help the remnant of the house of Israel to find out who they are so that they can partake of the promises and the prophecies that have been given to them by the Lord. This is the covenant that the Lord is talking about here. This is Mormon chapter 5, verses 15 and 19. It says, "And also that the seed of this people may more fully believe his gospel, which shall go forth unto them from the Gentiles. For this people shall be scattered. The Lord has preserved their blessings, which they might have received in the land for the Gentiles, who shall possess the land." So when they became a wicked people, they lost some of these blessings, which were going to be given to the Gentiles, who would eventually come to the promised land. In 4th Nephi chapter 1, verse 49, it says, "And he did hide them up unto the Lord, that they might come again unto the remnant of the house of Jacob, according to the prophecies and the promises of the Lord." These prophecies and promises are what the Book of Mormon was actually written and preserved for. The Book of Mormon is a record, in fact, of these prophecies and promises to those who are led by the hand of the Lord to the land of promise. It was not written to identify its geography. Should the proposed method then that we use the geographical passages over the spiritual passages? Doesn't make sense. We should use the spiritual passages over the geographical passages. And if we do so, could it be that more can be learned about the geography of the Book of Mormon from the spiritual passages for which the book was actually written than the geographical clues which are in the Book of Mormon, but for which it was never written? And I think the answer to that, you'll see as we move through this information, will become much more clear. What is a paradigm? Well, when I ask folks that, they typically say it's a way of thinking about things. And I usually get a couple of different examples, and then I give them my definition. It's a pair of dimes. Okay? How much are a pair of dimes worth? I think most everyone would say a pair of dimes is worth 20 cents. And if you were to say that, you would actually be not quite correct, because it's time to change your paradigm. You see, these dimes are both 1964 dimes. Each of these silver dimes are 0.088 ounces of silver, and as of 10/26/07, it was valued at $14 per ounce. Each dime is actually worth about $1.11 times 2 dimes is $2.22, not a lowly 20 cents. You see how that just changed? Now these 2 dimes became 10 times more valuable when a little additional knowledge was given. And that's what we're trying to do with this project, is to give folks additional information and additional knowledge that helps them make a new determination about what we're talking about. We need to begin also with another law that's been established by the Lord and is used within the church, and that is the law of witnesses. The Book of Mormon geography must also have multiple witnesses, both within the text and without. These witnesses fall into the categories of internal or external testimonies, or spiritual witnesses, which are kind of the internal, or physical witnesses, which are more external. We need to begin, though, with the spiritual witnesses, and that is to identify the Book of Mormon's prophecies and promises, which have been testified of in relation to the promised land in the latter days, and the people, meaning the Gentiles, who would be associated with this promised land. The second thing we need to do is then conduct research on the historically inspired and revealed understandings of the prophet Joseph Smith on geography. Those 2 spiritual aspects, I think, will help us to come to some very clear conclusions as to where we might be wanting to look for the next 2, which are the physical aspects. The physical witnesses then are, number 3, a physical real-world evidence, such as any corresponding civilizations that might be in the correct time frame, archaeological findings that correlate to the text, things like head plates and breastplates and the way that they built cities and so forth. Cultural evidences, genetic or DNA evidences and relationships, and also linguistic ties. We should also then use the 550 passages from the Book of Mormon itself that indicates geographical understanding, and then apply those to what we find. By using this new method in this presentation, you will see that it may help us in coming to some better conclusions and limiting rather than expanding the number of potential sites or proposed sites for the Book of Mormon. So this new proposed method for conducting research on Book of Mormon geography is this. Number one, we take the spiritual and scriptural prophecies and promises passages for which the book was actually written and apply those first. Then we take Joseph Smith's prophetic and revelatory statements and apply that. Then third, we take the physical evidences such as DNA, archaeology, culture, the language, civilization, archaeoastronomy, metallurgy, building practices and materials, burials and climate, weather, all these different things, apply those and see, are there any correlations to the Book of Mormon itself from those? And then fourth and finally, then we apply the geographic passages from the Book of Mormon and see if that helps then to really clarify and specify where certain areas of the Book of Mormon may have taken place. Now, the one thing that people need to understand is that the Book of Mormon is actually a Hebrew text. This is from John Tvednis in his Hebraisms in the Book of Mormon, a preliminary survey. This is back in 1970. Though the Book of Mormon expressly states that it is written in the language of the Egyptians, that's from 1 Nephi chapter 1, verse 2, nevertheless, it quite clearly reflects a number of Hebrew idioms and contains numerous Hebrew words. This is no doubt due to the fact that the Nephites retained the Hebrew language, albeit in an altered form. And we know that from Mormon chapter 9, verse 35. Royal Skousen says this: the occurrence of non-English Hebraisms strongly suggests that the text was tightly controlled, down to the level of the word at least. And the spelling of names such as Coriantumr suggests that the control could be imposed down right to the very letter. The evidence suggests that Joseph Smith was not the author of the Book of Mormon, not even its English language translation, although it was revealed spiritually through him and in his own language by the Lord. This was written again by Royal Skousen in translating the Book of Mormon, evidence from the original manuscript. In Book of Mormon Authorship Revisited, the Evidence of Origins, back in 1997. This being the case, the words used within the text are not Joseph Smith's words, but the Lord's choice of words and the Lord's translation for us. Therefore, a study of textual evidence should include a look at the language and grammatical context, especially the use of words of direction and specificity. In other words, the demonstratives that give definiteness, direction, and distance within the text should be given proper attention. This is what we're talking about, is being able to get these words that are both used in Hebrew and in English that help to demonstrate proximity to someone. In Hebrew, like English, the use of these demonstratives to directly point to or indicate something to answer the question of which. The answer to which will fall into two main classifications. One is the number, meaning is it singular or is it plural? And the second thing is proximity. Is it near or is it remote from the speaker? These are these demonstratives, and Bruce Porter was the one that actually, he contacted me and said, Rod, you need to understand these demonstratives and how they apply in the Book of Mormon. When something is singular and it's near, then I say this. For example, I might say this tie as opposed to those ties that I might have in my closet. Or plural, these are my fingers and those are your fingers, for example. This becomes very important in understanding the definition of these demonstratives. This is singular, it's among the plural. It's one among a group that's definite because it's within the group. It's specific, it's one among many, and it's always in the proximity of the speaker. Now that, on the other hand, is also singular and definite and specific, but it's remote in difference or distance in respect to the speaker.